So yeah, the Titanic. We all know it especially from the 1990s movie Titanic. And we all know that famous scene where Jack is holding up Rose and she says, "I'm flying," at the nose of the ship. And then Grell Sutcliffe ruined it by making it gay in Black Butler Book of the Atlantic. Please don't copyright me for showing that clip. Although I like it, my mom did not. But I think they can get away with it when their Titanic was suffering from a zombie apocalypse on deck. But so let's get out of the fiction and hop into the real side of the Titanic, the actual Titanic itself. So from Daily Section and Story of America cards, this is the sinking of the Titanic. The RMS Titanic, or just known as Titanic, was a British passenger liner operated by the White Star Line, which sank in the North Atlantic Ocean on April 15, 1912, after striking an iceberg during her maiden voyage from Southampton, UK to New York City, United States. Of the estimated 2,224 passengers and crew aboard, more than 1,500 died, making it the deadliest sinking of a single ship up at that time. It remains the deadliest peacetime sinking of superliner or cruise ship. The disaster drew public attention, provided foundational material for the disaster film genre, and has inspired many artistic works. Although the Titanic was a British-owned vessel, the tragedy that befell her on April 12 of 1912 affected the lives of millions of Americans directly or indirectly. It was the maiden voyage from England to New York for the pride of the White Star Line. She was the undisputed queen of the seas and largest ship in the world at 882 feet, 270 meters in length, and a gross tonnage of 46,328, 42,000 megatons. Moreover, she was deemed unsinkable.
Are you sure about that?
Her design, her craftsmanship, and her double-bottom, watertight hull made the Titanic the safest ship in the world.
Are you sure about that?
One could expect nothing less of a ship that costed $7.5 million to build. About 2,200 men, women, and children were aboard the Titanic, left Southampton, England on April 10, 1912. 4 days later, as the sleek four-slacker liner cut swiftly through the water, trying to establish a transatlantic record on her very own first try, most of her passengers were well-appointed cabins secured in the seaworthiness of the great ship. I meant seaworthiness. Then shortly before midnight on April 14th, as the Titanic passed through 95 miles to 150 kilometers south of Newfoundland, the officer on duty peered through the window of the bridge into the night. Suddenly, straight ahead, he watched it with horror as a huge iceberg loomed in front of the ship. And before he could sound a warning, the great ship ran at full speed into it, suffering 300-foot, 91 meters gash along for the starboard side. Now the true safety of the liner was put into ultimate test, and it failed. While the radio operator tried in vain to transmit SOS signals, the ship's crew struggled to get their passengers into lifeboats. There were enough boats for only half the number needed. However, and so women, children, and the wounded were put in the sea first, in the tiny boats. The rest waited and watched as the decks began to slope, and the ship's band played on, as if in disbelief in such as a tragedy could actually occur. Finally, at 2:20 a.m. April 15th, the great ship sank below first, just 2.5 hours after the collision. It was drawn before the 1705 survivors were picked up by the Cunard liner Carpathia, which was only 58 miles, 95 kilometers away from the Titanic, struck the iceberg. For the rest of the 1,500 passengers, there was no help. Among the prominent Americans who perished were millionaires John Jacob Astor IV and Benjamin Guggenheim. It was by far the worst disaster in maritime history. The Titanic was long thought to be sunk in one piece, and over the years many schemes were out forward for the raising of the wreck. None came to fruition. The fundamental problem was the sheer difficulty of finding and researching the wreck that lies over 12,000 feet, 700 meters below the surface, in a location where the water pressure is over 6,500 pounds per square inch of 450 bar. Yet expeditions to find the wreck went on, and on September 1st, 1985, Franco-American expedition led by Jean Louis Michael and Robert Ballard succeeded. The team discovered the Titanic had in fact split apart, probably near or at the surface before sinking to the seabed. The separate bow and the stern sections lined about a third of a mile, 0.6 kilometers apart, the Titanic's canyon off the coast of Newfoundland. And that is the sinking of the Titanic from the Story of America cards. Anyways, as always, I'll see you next time. Bye. Out of the the fiction, and hope into, and not supposed to say hop. Damn it! The RMS